All right, it's 6:32. I'll bring the meeting to order. First up, modifications and changes. Anything different tonight? No? Okay. Next, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody here from the public who wants to speak tonight? Seeing no hands raised, I'll move on to 2022 draft budget.
Okay, so I'll tee things up here. We've been through all four funds at this point one time. Purpose of tonight's meeting basically is to dedicate some time specifically to, go through now in more detail each of the four funds again. We have new information and new drafts for each of the funds for you tonight based on previous board conversations regarding the budgets and additional requests that have been made. Obviously those have an impact to each of the funds as well. So tonight we will just go through each of the funds. They're in various stages of being complete and finalized. I think a couple are in pretty good shape, and maybe a couple the board will want to have some more discussion and review on. So we'll just go through each of them in order, starting with the general fund. Note that there were a number of additional requests to be placed into the next draft of the general fund, which you have in front of you here. So some of those were paving for Maple Park. Also, we had a plow truck that was placed in here that needs some discussion.
I don't have the plow truck in.
Oh, you held back on that, okay.
No, I did hold back until we have better clarification which way we're gonna go, because there was a drastic difference in the numbers.
Okay, so thanks for clarifying that, Abby. And then also there was discussion about a new permanent position being created for Public Works Department, and the board had requested that that be shown for half a year beginning in 2022, so starting in June of 2022, with the intention of making that, completely full for 2023. I'm not sure. Okay, Brian is it here?
Yep, Brian
on Zoom?
Yep.
Regarding the Maple Park paving project, Brian Ovitt, our chief operator for Wastewater, wanted to have some discussion with the board about that project and its potential impacts regarding wastewater. And we have Kenny LaPlante here, foreman for the Public Works Department, here to help answer questions regarding Public Works and the general fund. And I think Kenny had a couple other things he wanted to bring up with the board as a result of our last discussions on the general fund, things that he has perhaps had a different way of thinking about since our last discussion, and he's spent a little bit more time working through the ins and outs of some of the discussions on a new hire and the plow truck issue. So basically, the draft that you're looking at right now is reflecting a 12.79%, I'm sorry, a 12.79 cent increase, or 23.58% increase to the tax rate. Those numbers are reflective of a number of things that we talked about just now. But as Abby pointed out, the purchase of a new plow truck is not shown in here. So that may or may not impact the tax rate further, depending on what the board decides about the plow truck. and the timing of its purchase.
And who we finance through generally.
Right,
Is it
and who we
different for that
finance
too?
through. The thinking is right now, you know, depending on what your decision is about this, whether we go with a 1-ton versus a more robust vehicle, could also impact the way in which we, you know, finance it as well. But we're starting to get to the point where we need answers to these questions so that we can finalize budgets, get them in the annual report, and get them reflected on the warning for the meeting, for the annual meeting. So, with that, Kenny, do you want to bring up some of the things that you had talked with staff about last week regarding the discussions of the new position and also a plow truck?
Right, I can.
I'm pulling up your memo that you sent us this morning.
Okay.
Buggy, I apologize, I did not print it out, but Ken,
Okay, the first thing, I just wanted to clarify that the labor position would actually be an operator laborer, which is not just a laborer position. And it would be to help out either if Rick or I was absent. Otherwise, a laborer position is like what Kevin is now, and that really wouldn't help our situation. So that's one thing I'd like to clarify. The other one is the plow truck. We're not really looking for a 1-ton, we're looking for something a little more heavier duty. I did some investigating on both Freightliner and International. There's about, I'd say $40,000, $45,000 difference between a single axle and a CV, smaller truck. But I've done some thinking on that. All this time that we haul snow on Main Street, we'd have to make more trips. All the time that we're doing hot mixing, we can only haul so much tonnage from Swanton to here. We can't find people to do a lot of our blacktop and nail patching. Big jobs, yes, but a lot of it we end up doing ourselves. So that would in turn make more trips to Swanton. And that would take longer to do our patches. Another thing is getting sand, doing the plowing the roads, sand and salting. We'd have to go back to the garage to load up more frequently. So with a smaller truck, yes, may not need a CDL, but is it really going to pay in the long run? I'm not 100% sure that we could get away with the smaller truck.
And with the operator position that you brought up, operator labor, what is at the heart of Ken's concern with that is someone with a CDL license. If you hire someone without that, then I think that's the point that he was getting at, is we really need somebody with a CDL.
the numbers that I use to base off the addition of that is the Class B operator, and I've attached kind of on the last page of your Fund 1, just kind of shows you what the starting wages are for the union contract, but I did base the numbers in here off of somebody with a CDL and the Class B, like Ken and I had discussed.
So you would be looking to hire somebody with an existing, at least Class B CDL, not training?
Right. Or, can we have it so that if they didn't have being able to obtain a CDL Class B? We could, that's another thing too.
Say what now?
If the person did not have a CDL, and would they be willing and be able to obtain?
Right,
Right,
saying-
yeah.
So it could be
Have the requirement.
part of the hiring process
That
that,
they would get it within a certain
Yep.
amount of time.
Right, right. I know it would be, I know it'd be less money and probably a little easier to maybe find somebody without a CDL.
But you're saying you're not sure that it's really gonna help the department that much
Right,
to hire someone without it, so.
right.
how do you feel about hiring somebody without and seeing to it that they get one? How do you feel about that? You know, if I applied for the job and didn't have my CDL, but I was willing to get it, if you know.
Yeah, Within, say 6 months, I mean, just an example.
Yep,
6 months, you'd be able to get a CDL.
Yeah, I think you'd want that because you're planning on making the hire in June. You want them to be available if needed for plowing efforts, so by December, right?
Right,
Yeah.
You would want them to have the CDL in hand,
yeah,
right?
That could just be rolled into like a probationary period.
Right.
For 6 months, if they don't have it
Right.
in 6 months, then.
yeah.
we start over.
You know, and I was saying the sand, we haul sand on our own. Yeah, we could have it hired done. But a lot of times it is, if it's pouring rain, we send them out, go get loads finished out the day. You know, odd things like that. If it's real nasty out, or at the end of the day, you don't have too much to do, go get, 6, 8 loads, whatever. So that would be another thing. There's a few, I talked to a couple towns around, the smaller internationals they're having light front end trouble, springs breaking, which it's hard on the front end.
Spot tracks, yeah.
The hydraulic brakes on the internationals, the guy told me, Dan, told me that they're having a little bit of trouble if they don't wash them out. Freightliner has air brakes, but then that's another endorsement on your license too, so. Air brake is.
I would shy away from hydraulic brakes, probably.
Yeah. And the motors are all pretty much Cummins or, you can pretty much Cummins now. Freightliners and internationals. Hopefully those are a little better than the Max Force.
Wouldn't take much.
Yeah. And there is no choice of a color right now unless you do the ordering, and that could be 2 years out. But there's no choice. They might have a red truck, they might have a green truck, they might have a white one.
I don't see that's too hard to live with.
So those were some of the concerns that I had.
Any thoughts from the board about those two issues, the laborer operator position and the plow truck?
I think the labor operator position is what
Yeah, absolutely.
makes sense.
Right. And I think the probationary period and the 6 months to get your CDL is a good way to start. Unless, we're lucky and find somebody right off the bat that is
Right.
interested, that has one.
So you could write the job advertisement up to the effect of, preferred CDL, but will consider somebody without, as long as they're willing to get a CDL within a 5-month period or something.
Would we need to factor in or make the decision? I don't know how much it costs to get your CDL. I know you
I
have to
thought
take.
rules changing on how you get your CDL too.
I had heard something, but I don't.
That would just be another factor of just deciding if we're gonna pay for someone to get their CDL or not to, because we'd have to factor that
Yeah.
into the budget. And like I said, I don't know what the cost is, it could be minimal, but obviously don't have my CDL, so
I think it's $3,000 to $4,000.
I say
So, but I think if you're open to the possibility, you're gonna have to budget for the possibility of hiring someone without. And if we can get one, then great, you save the money. But if you want that flexibility to consider somebody that doesn't have one, but will get one, then you've got to budget for that.
I think just add the training and
just add
go to 4.
4,000.
Okay, so that sounds like I'm hearing from the board that you're okay with that.
So I just looked on DMV's website. It says effective February 7th, no commercial driver's license entry-level operator may take a CDL skills test to receive a CDL A, B, passenger endorsement or school bus endorsement unless the driver has successfully completed a mandatory theory and behind-the-wheel training program by a registered CDL EDLT provider trainer.
So yeah, just go and
But doesn't Rick Green offer that? We could call for a price and
Yeah.
what his availability is too.
I don't know how long it takes, like how long is the class?
Cell does the training as well in Swanton.
Yeah. So I think there's options out there to do it. It's just, for our purposes of.
Time and money.
Right, the
Yep.
budget discussion, we just need to make sure we've got clear direction from the board, what your intent is, and then budget correspondingly. So, it sounds like your preference, you're convinced by Ken's arguments, let's try and get somebody that has a CDL, but if not, we may end up hiring someone without, and we're gonna have to train them to get it.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll have to make those changes. And then the question about the plow truck, how does the board feel about that? I know the last time we talked about general fund, there was some back and forth about a 1-ton versus, something a little more robust. After thinking about it more, Ken feels like we really should get a vehicle that's a bit more robust, that there's a lot of potential pitfalls to going with just a 1-ton. How are you guys feeling about that?
And that would be a replacement of our current,
You're right.
not addition to the fleet.
Right. And I didn't ask any trade-in amounts. Ours would be right now. I didn't ask, but I'm not sure what they would. It's probably innocent compared to what it's worth.
I feel kind of like he's the feet on the ground, like he knows what he needs better than we do.
I do too.
I don't know. That's the way I feel.
It sounds like you've given it a great deal of thought.
We're not
Okay,
the ones
so-
in the truck every day.
Okay, so, sounds like that's the direction we're gonna go in. What that may mean then is that's gonna be a little more money. So we're also in this very strange time period with the pandemic and all of the shortages that you guys are aware of with supply and demand on virtually all fronts in our society right now. So it's a little bit of an unknown as to when we could get the vehicle, when it would be available to us, but you're being told 2 years now, right?
If we
With the
do an
possi-
order
Right,
and they don't have,
with the possibility that if we get lucky, they might come to us in 6 months and say, hey, just so happens, we had one show up on the lot today that's very close to what you're looking for, do you want it? And then we'd have to make a decision about whether we want it or not, or wait for what, we want exactly. So, with that in mind, those kinds of issues, along with how we would finance the vehicle, will have an impact on the 2022 budget as well, as to whether it impacts any part of the budget. It's very possible, if we go ahead and order one, that's a 2-year wait time, so it wouldn't actually hit the budget until 2024, more than likely. But if we get one, you know, if Ken starts making inquiries and in August, somebody says, hey, we got one, just so happens it came in, not exactly what you're looking for, but it's real close, do you want to take it? And we say yes, well, then we may be making payments on that in September, you know, so we may have 4 months of payments in 2022 that hit the budget on that. So there's a little bit of some unknown with it because of just all of the oddities that are going along with this pandemic.
I guess I just have a couple of questions. Is there the major difference between the cost of the 1 ton and the cost of the one that's a little bit less? And how does that compare money-wise to the extra trips that you would be making with the smaller truck? Are they, you know, is it like a balanced scale, or is it?
You make, you know, more trips, I think it's gonna be more in labor, not only wear and tear on the vehicle, it's gonna be labor-wide intensive.
So it's gonna end up being considerably more expensive than?
Right.
Okay.
So,
Have you gotten any quotes yet?
I did get one, I just barely got it. And the International is 175,000 for a single axle.
And that's not including a plow or?
That plow everything.
Oh, everything's in it.
And there's only one equipment dealer now in the state of Vermont. So, and that's Viking. And I've heard different people say different things about the equipment. It's just, it's probably most of it is getting used to it because it's not something that a lot of them are used to. Tenco and Everest, as we've been all used to, and now Viking's here and they've been state putting them all out, so, state, so.
Did that include the long warranty?
I don't think it did.
I think it would be smart. I think they're 7-year now.
I think so.
To get on a 7-year equipment replacement
Yeah.
schedule.
They did inform me that they have a 7-year warranty, and he advised that we take it with all this electronic stuff now. I know, it's,
I would agree with that.
Yep.
I mean, we got stuck pretty good last year
yeah,
when that one went down. That was 6 years old, right?
right.
Sam, Cindy, we just posted a question in chat. Have you considered state vehicles that get auctioned? And then she provided the information for the surplus.
Yeah, I have seen quite a few old state vehicles come through my garage, and typically they are at the end of their useful lifespan. They get pretty rusty with all that brine. And then they had a batch of those max force engines, and those are the ones that are gonna be coming up. And that's what we have, and so that's what we're trying to get rid of. Yeah, I wouldn't advise going with an auction state one.
Be kind of at the same situation
It's
that we're
gonna be
in
the
now with
same
our
thing that we
truck.
have, except orange.
Right, right.
okay.
And those prices did not include the warranty. Okay, I just checked.
I think that'd be something to look into.
Okay. So do we have agreement then?
Toyota don't make over 3/4 ton, right?
No,
Well, the UD or whatever, but no.
They don't get onto the 1-ton trucks.
Are you just reaching out to Freightliner and International, or are you going to Mac and Western Star?
All I've done right now is International and Freightliner. He did tell me that Mac was a longer waiting period. But I haven't checked Western Star yet.
of course,
He
he's a salesman
did.
for International, so he doesn't want you to go to Mac.
He said that Western Star was ruggeder built, and there was a lot of, extra things on there that helped the body companies build onto them because of this stuff. But I haven't got a price back yet on those.
All right,
And when it comes down to it, sounds like the board is in agreement with going this direction. New vehicle, more robust, keeping an eye out open for, you know, maybe an early buy as opposed to a 2-year waiting period if the opportunity presents itself. But, you know, once you put the order in, you're kind of locked into it, so you need to be sensitive to that too. I'm assuming unless they.
You can
told
talk, I was gonna say, you can talk to
otherwise,
those manufacturers, but the way it's going, they probably don't even care, like, well, if you don't take it, the next
Yeah,
person.
somebody
Probably
else
have
will
a-
anyway.
They probably have a long waiting
It
list.
could,
Yeah.
it could be because of the way the market is right now, that they
Wouldn't
would
be
be
surprised.
willing to overlook it if you want to take something now, but it's something you should, you know, have
We gotta
further
ask.
discussions with the dealer with on it. And, you know, as we go through this, Kenny's still got, you know, if you guys are in approval of this, and it sounds like you are, he's got more time to research some of this, and, you know, he could look into Western Star as well and see if there's a preference that you'd be looking for within that. But for our purposes here, we just need to know, is it in or is it out, so that we can identify a general budget number that we would be looking for. Because we're gonna be financing this over 5 years, so that means this would have to be put on the Australian ballot vote. So we need to keep that in mind, and, you know, we need to identify what the larger end of that number would be as opposed to the shorter end, because you don't wanna, you know, cut yourself, you know, without enough slack to be able to accommodate the larger purchase, especially if inflationary measures started kicking in after a year or two. So, you know, but we can do that research. For now, we just need to know, is it the one-ton or the more robust model? And, you know, are you in and out with that? And also, we need to make you guys aware, you know, this will have to go to a public vote. It's gonna be on Australia ballot vote. So it sounds like we're resolved with that issue. You got any other comments or anything about the plow truck, Kenny?
They did say that you could sign a cover letter, and then that would put you in, and they would order that truck and get it coming, but they didn't know exactly. It could be July, it could be August, if you wanted to sign a cover letter.
Could be July or August.
Right, when they're getting some in, they're getting some.
Well, yeah, that's the
trucks
option,
in.
if they get something in that's close to what you ordered.
Yeah.
But and you'll have to just have the discussion with the dealer. If you did that, are they gonna release you on, you know, the vehicle you actually ordered
Right.
to come in 2 years?
Right.
Because if not, then, you know, that shorter option's kind of off the table.
Yeah.
when would that cover letter need to be signed?
Whenever we went through all the specs and spec'd out the truck. And then you could sign that, and then they could get a truck coming. Don't know if it would be on this next order, or if it'd be towards fall. So,
I would assume that that would have to be sent after the public vote, if it is successful.
He did say that, I wasn't completely clear on, they said that you wouldn't be held to that if your people did not vote on it.
Oh, really?
But I would, there's something that it just doesn't sound quite.
Yeah, it would be, I'd want to look at that real closely.
Would you say that again,
I'm not
please?
gonna- Yeah, I wanted to call him back and say, this doesn't sound,
You talking to Russ?
no, Dan St. Cyr.
Okay,
And I talked to Sandy Ladd right later.
Okay, so another issue we need to talk a little bit more about within Public Works General Fund is Maple Park paving. And we have Brian Ovitt here from our wastewater department. Brian had some concerns when he heard that this was potentially a project that was going to be done in 2022. So Brian, you've got the floor. Abby's working on your voice.
We just need you to unmute, Brian.
Oh, you're on mute, okay.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the board aware that as part of our CSO long-term control plan this year, one of the many items, one of the things is we're actually supposed to camera that sewer line along Maple Park. It's old clay tile, over 100 years old, and probably a source for infiltration. Not saying that there are issues, but just wanted to make you guys aware that that is to be done, and not knowing what shows up on that if we wouldn't consider replacing that sewer line in the next few years. And do we want to pave and then potentially have to pull up some of that pavement, or again, just kind of wanted, I'm sure you guys probably weren't aware of that.
Do you have a rough idea of how much that would cost to redo that?
I don't, that would be something Wayne Elliott would probably have to work up, or Gary Denton. That's not something I'm real familiar with. I don't expect it would be a terribly large number. We did about the same length on Orchard Street, and then about the same length on Water Tower Road a couple of years ago. I can't remember the exact figures, but it wouldn't be terribly expensive. But I also don't know, and I haven't talked to Gary, if there's any water lines or anything like that. Just wondering what other kind of infrastructure and the quality of it that's down there.
So I think probably everybody gets the gist of Brian's concern here is, if we do the camera work on it this summer, we do find issues, and we've already committed to paving the street for this year. We go in and pave it, it may be, 2 years later, we're gonna have to go back in and tear it up to replace a section of the water or wastewater.
That's not cost effective.
It only impacts sort of the southern stretch of it. There's no sewer on it's sort of I don't know if you know where Mrs. Smith lives, from there down to the Congregational Church. So it's about probably a third of the whole road. But again, I don't know if it makes sense to do just part of the road, or, it wouldn't be the whole road, but.
You mean you wouldn't replace the old tile pipes in the whole road?
We would, but there's only sewer line on the southern end of Maple Park. So as you go in the entrance and sweep around, as you start coming back towards Main Street, that's the only stretch that has sewer line on it.
Where does the rest of it go?
Out the back. It goes out the back.
Everything else goes down towards Bismarck.
Yeah.
So something to consider there. So, I guess you could attack it two ways. If you're really dead set on trying to do Maple Park this year, maybe you just want to also budget to replace all of the water and wastewater line there. That obviously is going to have an impact to those departments as well. And we would have to go through and research what that would be, and whether we could afford to do that this year, or whether we would have to have another bond vote in that situation. But that's kind of a big lift, given how much time we have left in the budgeting process right now, to have to go through and figure out that stuff. Or you delay it another year, let Brian go in, do his camera work this summer, see what he finds out, and then plan for it the following year if there is any other work that needs to get done underground with either water or wastewater. Have that done beforehand for 2023, and then do the paving once that's done. So maybe you could get that underground work done the front part of the year in the spring, May or June, and then go back in and do the paving later in the summer, you know, August or September or something.
And we can have some kind of public campaign to let the people that are there living on that street, which is horrible, there's no doubt about that, but a campaign to let them know that, you know, we're not forgetting them, but other things have got to be done first, and that as soon as
Right.
we get the sewer issues settled, that we will pave their street.
Yeah, it would be worse, I think, to
Well-
pave it and then
Tear
in
it
2
out.
years have to tear it
No, that
down.
doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I know.
I feel like that's the smart way to go. Camera it and wait, see what they find.
But, you
So
know,
wait till 2023?
yeah, if that's agreeable with the board, that might be the better way to go,
Is there-
to let Brian do his camera work this year, see what he finds out. You know, maybe there's nothing that is of a big issue there, and it's not too big a problem, that would be great. But, as Brian said, you know, you got 100-year-old clay lines in there, chances are there's probably gonna be some issues.
gotta use the Boy Scout theory.
Right, so, you know, and then, once you've determined what those issues are, then you can plan for that and have that work done, the underground work done, the first, you know, quarter of 2023, the following year, and then plan to do the paving after that's completed, you know, maybe late summer or something, August or September.
And water. If it needs-
Right.
If there is, I'm not sure what there is. I was just throwing that out as another possibility to look into beforehand. Ken might know a little bit about that water, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's small pipe and it's old, so it probably wouldn't be a bad,
Yeah, we're in there,
That's adjusted.
anyway. So.
right.
And was replacing those clay pipes part of the long-term wastewater plan?
Yes, part of our long-term CSO, our combined sewer overflow plan, which it's different than the engineering study. It's more to keep us out of violation, like with overflows. So it's probably a good source for infiltration during wet weather. And our commitment, there was 3 or 4 alternatives, and our commitment as a village had been to explore these avenues of infiltration rather than doing a large upgrade of any sort. Roof separate, like any flat roofs, we're looking to separate those when construction is done. The armory was one that got done last year.
So it sounds like we should wait. And
I just heard about this
everything else.
on the street sort of thing, and it kind of spurred a thought that with just something you might want to consider.
Yeah, no, that's a good plan.
good, yeah, thank you.
I think Eli agrees.
Yes, I believe so. He
It sounded like he did.
was nodding
So,
like he did.
If we could get water on board too, have Gary start doing some research on what we'll need for next year.
Yeah. Gary's in attendance, so you've heard that, Gary.
Gary, sir.
If you can,
Yeah, I did, I'll talk to Wayne and have his thoughts on it and information.
yeah, thank you. Okay, so there is another item
You were in
that
agreement
I'd
that
like
we
to
wait?
bring up with the board. It really affects all departments, it's not just general fund, but we have Lori Stanley here, who's come to speak with you guys directly about the new phone system issue and the research that we've been able to put together on this. So that Lori's not sitting here, you know, all night with us. Maybe we can hit that one now. It does affect all of the budgets, not just general fund, and then Lori can get some sleep. So.
Did we
Lori-
get our money back on that other one?
No,
On the Zoom?
The
phone
system, no, the system that Matt got, did we just lose out on that?
yeah,
Oh, that's crappy.
Well, not entirely. We
Okay.
don't know. I don't know the answer to that question yet.
Okay.
Oh, really? Have they said they're gonna consider giving us some kind of reimbursement?
The phones weren't purchased through Zoom. They were purchased through a third-party vendor that we can't return to.
Yeah.
One of the companies that we looked at is researching the possibility that they could use those phones with their system.
Oh,
The reason
that
why
would
it's
be a
not
help.
in the memo is because I didn't want to mislead the board in that they're not sure.
but at least they're looking into it.
They are looking into it.
That's good. That makes me feel much better.
And if not, maybe one of the vendors can find us an avenue where we could potentially
Sell them. Yeah.
So does the board have, I think everyone's got a copy of the
Yep.
memo Lori
Yep, they should.
did up. Lori, do you wanna run through that with the board?
I think it's pretty straightforward. I do want to stress, there's some serious vulnerabilities that we kind of didn't really understand that they existed. We are not E911 compliant. So right now, if somebody from this office calls 911, the ambulance is going to go to that building because that's where the E911 phone number address is listed to. So with the new type of phone system, it's programmed, if the call comes from this conference room, E911 will know it's this building and possibly even what room the emergency's in. We didn't look into, or could we be fined or anything like that. We're just not E911 compliant. The other thing we found out is our phone system is no longer supported. The closest vendor is in Maine, and parts are very hard to come by. So if we were to lose our phone system, we could potentially be without phones for days. And I don't think that's a position we want to be in at all.
Tin cans and a string is not good.
So those were the vulnerabilities. The other vulnerability is right now, when we lose power, we have a system, it's called Lori's Finest. I run up the hill. I have one of the departments bring us a generator and we get power to the phone system that operates on power. The new phone system, we wouldn't have to have power, we'd have to have internet. And Comcast is our internet supplier and we are fed from a couple different directions. So the possibility of us losing internet isn't great, but it's a possibility. That we could have the internet coming into the building, but the phones do require power, that they get fed through our computers. So everybody we talked to also suggested that we may want to consider, and I think this has been discussed in the past, having a backup generator for the office.
I'm surprised you don't already have one.
They're expensive and that type of thing. So those were the vulnerabilities they brought up. With any of the phone systems if we choose to go to, we need to have cell phones. So if Comcast goes down, if we lose our internet, your phones still have internet and we would still be able to man and handle calls and outages and that type of thing. So that was in this quote separately, the annual cost to have 2 cell phones.
And that, just to reiterate on the 2 cell phones, it's all of the systems that we're looking at are the voice over IP, like Lori said, so we would need the internet. It's not like the current system that we have now, that's your old fashioned phone jack essentially. So that's what the need for the cell phone would be, because if we lose the internet service, then at least we can have access to the phones via the cell phone, because our our cell phone provider should still be functioning as a backup.
So the equipment that we have currently is almost obsolete.
It
is.
is obsolete by a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so you were talking with somebody that said that maybe their system may work on our equipment?
But no, the Zoom, Matt purchased equipment for the Zoom phones. They're a voice over IP phone. They're not like these are called comm dials. How they function is different than a voice over IP phone. So though we have a whole tote of those phones that Matt ordered to operate with Zoom. those particular phones, one of the vendors feels we might be able to use that with their system. The phones we have would not work with a voice over IP.
So 2 separate phone systems?
Yep.
All right, gotcha. I was gonna say.
And there's
We're
no
gonna get
value in this
awesome
phone
equipment.
system. Like if we get rid of this phone system, recycle is where it needs to go. There's no resale value.
Off to Bakersfield.
Yeah. So the vendors, I think we have, both of our leases are with National.
Right now.
Yep.
Um, no, we, only the off folder stuff, or I believe that was through Usherwood.
Yeah, so Northeast and National would be the 2 that I would suggest. The lease option is good in my opinion, because if a phone breaks or something and we lease it, we just send it back and they send us a new programmed one. I also think it's important that we get a service contract that is local. So the first 2, Northeast and National, if we have a problem, if we have a voicemail or something that isn't working, we call them and they walk us through it. Whereas the third vendor, you would be calling an outsourced company.
This would be Brian.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, or Sean.
So Northeast and National are both local?
Yeah, they're out of Vermont.
Out of the 3 that we met with, Twin State was the 3rd, and they wanted us to do a lot of other, I would say, IT upgrades that we don't necessarily need, in my opinion. I think Lori agrees.
And I'm not
with
sure we
that.
need them.
And Ken felt the same way.
Ken Sainamore from
felt like
Vepsa.
they were pushing us to go Cadillac on everything.
Yep.
And Ken does an amazing job from Vepsa, and I highly respect his opinion.
Did he have a preference between Northeast and National?
He felt comfortable with both of them. I believe National has Ring Central, and Vepsa has Ring Central. And our IT support is through Vepsa. We pay for it in our contract with them. So it would be best if they knew our phone system so they could assist us effectively in the event that, you know, service wasn't available when we called or
You
something.
never know.
Are they the ones that think those Zoom phones work?
Yes,
Liar?
All right.
but I don't want you to go on the fact that, right,
No.
I'm very nervous about that.
No, but
I
there are
understand.
there are several
Possibilities.
pluses lined up there.
The quotes here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, I don't want to misspeak, but the quote here that we're looking at with National reflects us having to lease or purchase.
Yes, I wanted to provide the
full-
quote,
that's what I
the
thought.
full price.
Yep. So,
And if they were able to use our phones, then that's just a bonus.
Right, you'd save your 5,000 from your initial purchase. Right?
On which one are you
If
on?
they-
If you're on purchased equipment.
Right,
The
because-
one-time purchase of
Right,
phone.
right,
5,000,
right.
I'll just say
Yeah.
that, right.
I mean, there's probably would still be an installation fee. In that 5,000, I think some of that was installation and setup.
Well, I guess, do we wanna wait and see if our phones will be compatible, and if they're not, just lease?
and I don't mean to speak over you, Lori, I feel like we're to the point where we kind of need to make a decision, and know that this is the number, but there's a, you know, say 25% chance we could actually use the phones that we have, and I'm just throwing a number out there because I don't know enough about it, but it might be better just to come to a decision based off of what we have, and Lori, if you don't agree, please
No,
say so.
I agree
and-
with but I think what you're saying is, if you say let's do a lease option, they discover that our phones are usable, then absolutely,
Right.
let's take that route. Yeah.
Yep.
Because I think they said all the phones are pretty much the same. It's just, there's the technology behind them. Will they work with the vendor that you're choosing to work with?
Well, guess we need to find
So I
out.
feel like we should go with the lease and just hope that ours work.
Yeah, but yeah,
With that
but for-
Could turn out to be a plus.
technology.
That way the money's there. How would this be split? Right, right across all?
It's, the phones are split at 10, 10, 10, 70, correct? Okay. And this upgrade, the highway department, unfortunately, their internet is not up to speed, literally. So they would have to stay with the older phone system until we address the internet issue because their internet is not capable of handling the new software. So it would be split between the other three, and then we still maintain the old system, correct, for them?
Yeah, it would just be the monthly cost through consolidated. But the general fund would still take 10% of the
Yep.
cost, whether Ken
Right.
can benefit from it or not, sorry.
We like you, Ken, but
Are you okay with your phone system as it is right now?
It works, yes, yeah. For what I have to do on line and it's, I can't do some of the Zoom things and stuff, but
Why is your internet so bad?
I said the line is.
It's the line, and consolidated or.
it's consolidated.
That should,
Consolidated
What else
Plug
do
in
we
the
need to
schools.
say?
basically said they
Plug
couldn't really
across
do
the-
anything, and Comcast was gonna be like $80 a month to get him the type of speed we needed, and we pay 25, I think, right now. So,
Get COD to help you.
Yeah. But there's still justification to charge them because
oh, yeah. no.
remember the
Yeah.
staff down here works for all of the departments.
Yeah, it'll,
So,
yeah. it'll
and that's
still go to
why
the general fund.
those kind of shared costs are split the way that they are, 70, 10, 10, 10. That was a formula that was actually agreed to with the state of Vermont regarding a breakdown of services for the electric utility facilities specifically, where it was estimated that, you know, there are a number of issues and positions that are sharing resources, especially in the labor pool. My position, the village manager position, is part of that as well, where my salary is split in the same way, 70, 10, 10, 10. 70% of my time is going into the electric department and the management of the electric department, then 10% general fund, 10% water, 10% wastewater. And there are a number of different labor issues and material issues within the municipality that have those same types of issues, and so that's how they get split out, and that was agreed to with the state of Vermont, that they would allow that, those kinds of situations to be split that way for electric utility services.
Sam, can I ask a clarifying question? So the lease between Northeast and National is about $6,000 based over a 3-year period. If National is unable to recycle our phones and reuse those voice over IPs, would you suggest we go with the leaser cost on the lease option?
I guess that goes back to familiarity with the phone system.
Yeah.
So is it worth it for them? You know, is it worth $6,000 for them to be familiar with our electronics and then go with National, I guess? I think that's more of a specific question for them, for IT, or you. I guess financially, it'd be smarter to go with the low book.
Okay.
But if it's gonna be that much of a difference, then I wouldn't mind paying more.
Okay.
If we're gonna get more out of it in the long run with being
Make
able
Making
to
it
use the
easier
other
on
equipment.
everybody. If there is an issue, somebody already knows how to fix it.
Yeah, that part is nice.
We've already zoomed down that road.
I mean, even if we know that our existing phones are not gonna be compatible, that $5,000 savings, you know, there's still a $6,000 difference between the low and the high, so. Either way, the cheaper one's cheaper.
Okay.
So I guess if you wanted to go with Northeast, then that makes sense. Yeah. I don't know, whatever we wanna do.
Then I'm not opposed to paying more if everybody's more comfortable with it.
Right.
Well, there's gonna be a learning curve for staff.
Oh, absolutely. But it depends
Well, like
on, you
Ken-
know,
If Ken's gotta fix it, he knows more about the
Yeah.
We would get a
NBT than
service
the.
contract too for
It is
them.
an investment.
They would have a service contract, so if something were to go wrong, we could reach out to them. But in the event that they can't help us, there's Ken or Webster to fall back on.
Ken
But-
speaks very highly at Solar of Ring Central. It's like Lori said, that's to switch to them, and he has nothing but great things to say about them.
That's the NBT one, right?
I'm sorry, what?
That's the National Business Tech.
Yes, yep,
well, and nothing is worse than when it doesn't work.
right.
Okay. Hopefully that answers your question. Without being too confusing.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Basically make the best decision possible.
And we know you will.
Do my best.
That's all anybody can ask of anybody.
All set, Lori?
Yeah.
All right, great. Appreciate the board's time on that, consideration. I think we've got some direction now for a new phone system. Can build that into the final draft. And I think that will take us through the general fund now. I think we've discussed the issues that still needed to be made, a decision regarding different items that were still kind of hanging out there in the general fund. We'll remind the board that none of that really changes what we're looking at for the tax increase. So, you know, we're still looking at about a 23% increase in the tax rate right now. But we
The
still have,
paving project, was there calculated in?
It is, Heather, but it's kind of an in and an out in the essence of we have it up above in the loan proceeds, so it's kind of an in and an out.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
so, but, you know, we've got another meeting next week. If the board wants to, we can discuss general fund more and see where we end up. I would say let's go to water then, water department. I think water is okay. Sorry I wasn't at the meeting last week. I came down with the flu, wasn't COVID, but another kind of flu.
Probably still wasn't fun.
It still wasn't fun, no. Still got some residual effects from it, but feeling a lot better than I was a week ago for sure. From what I gathered in reading the minutes and talking with Abby regarding water, there didn't seem to be any great outstanding issues. So I myself am okay with water as it stands right now. Is there anything in water that anyone wants to bring up on the Board of Trustees?
Gary, are you gonna need any additional funding for studies on Maple Park?
I don't know that, right now. I mean, you probably ask Wayne about an engineering study and a cost estimate. I don't know what that would cost. Right now, I have no idea, Sam. Again, just all of a sudden brought up to me today, so, I don't know what Wayne would charge me for that.
Okay.
It may not happen till next, I mean, you were talking next year, so, I mean, he may not start that till, you know.
No, this,
I can talk to him tomorrow, I don't know. I can ask him what the cost would be.
yeah, if you could maybe give Wayne an indication that we're looking for, you know, a quick number, that
Right.
it should be high rather than low.
Right,
And
for
we are-
engineering and, you know, yes.
We're under some time constraints here now. If he
Yeah.
thought he could get us something in the next week or so that we could build
Yeah.
into a water department budget. Sam's question is related to the paving questions that we had and the decision that the
Right.
board just made to postpone the actual paving in order to do camera work and other investigative work for the water and wastewater lines. So that would need to be done this year in 2022
Right.
in coordination with Brian's camera work for wastewater department.
Right. So you want to get a price on engineering and the cost of production?
No, not necessarily for that, just to do the camera work for this year. And then based on.
Oh, I mean, the sewer, okay.
Right, and then based on what the camera work finds in 2022, we may need to think about replacing either the water or wastewater or both for 2023 prior to the paving work being done.
Okay, so you want a price on him cameraing, the cost of him cameraing, and then you want, see, I don't understand the water thing, because the water, you'd have to get an engineering estimate on what's gonna cost to do the engineering on that before I can do the products. I guess I'm going to confuse. I'll talk to you tomorrow, and I'm down to do what you want.
Oh, okay, all right, well, let's touch base tomorrow then. Sorry if I'm not being clear. But yeah, we can follow up tomorrow then, Gary, and.
Yeah, I'll be in tomorrow.
Okay, only if
Talking about it
you're, only if you're healthy though.
He's good.
He's good.
Well, I've had my COVID test today.
Okay.
It's okay. We're good.
Okay, otherwise, if you're not feeling good, just give me a call on the phone, okay?
I still got my little bit, like you, I got a little residual like flu left, but I'm feeling better. I'm coming tomorrow, mask.
Bringing
Okay,
his residuals with him.
okay. All right, sounds good, Gary. We'll touch base tomorrow. Any other questions or anything people want considered for water?
Just that, you get
Okay, yeah,
check it out, please.
yeah. Okay, wastewater then, kind of the same, situation, I think. Again, looked at the minutes from last board meeting and talked with Addie to get filled in on the discussion. Didn't seem to be any lingering issues in wastewater department. Personally, I think it's in pretty good shape. There is a small deficit, but it's relatively small and we can easily cover it with operating surpluses within the department and avoid doing any kind of a rate increase for 2022, and I think that's the direction we should go. So if the board is in agreement with that, then we can have a short discussion on wastewater.
The only addition that you will see in what, hang on a second, Gary, that I have in here is we're having issues with the entrance gate. The rollers are freezing and not working. Ken can attest to this. It's near impossible to open that gate some days without the guys injuring themselves. So there is, and I've included in what I gave you today, an estimate to replace the gate, and it would be with 2 swinging doors essentially, which Brian said would work perfectly, and I'm assuming you're good with that too, so that's what we used to have. So the only difference is under the maintenance of the main plant is that was added into it. That's the only change from the last time.
Okay, so relatively minor, still I think very doable. Everyone okay with wastewater then? Sounds like, okay, great. So, I'm sorry, Gary, go ahead.
On your budget for the sewer, shouldn't you add that cammering to that budget, not the water budget? I know I'm confused, but that cammering should be under the sewer budget, so. Is that something they're gonna do out of their savings, or that's gonna be something they need money to do that for?
Well, if we're gonna be cammering water lines.
Well, no, you're not gonna camera water lines. We're gonna be cammering sewer lines. We don't camera water lines. It's basically gonna be either replace them or leave them. There's no cammering the water lines. Only gonna camera is the sewer lines.
Okay, so maybe this is something we need to talk about tomorrow then?
Yeah, because
Already in the, like, did they already have that in the works, like, it was gonna get done?
Yeah, the wastewater cammering is
Right.
already in the wastewater.
there is no cammering to water lines. Either you replace them or you don't replace them. There'll be no cammering. Basically, is getting a engineer to do an estimate on replacing the water line and replacing it. There's no cammering to water lines.
there's gotta be a way that we can evaluate the condition of the water line.
You'd have to dig it up. I mean, there's no way really there's no way to, there's no way to really actually camera a water line.
There's nothing that you can do? Okay.
I've never seen them, I mean, nothing like that. I've never seen it done that way. I've
So
seen
that's
them
what you
sewer
were
lines,
trying
but
to
I never- What's that?
So that's what you were trying to communicate a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
was
the
that-
only cameraing there is a sewer line.
Okay, well, why don't we talk about this tomorrow
Okay,
and come up with some kind of a plan that we can propose to the board for next week on this, because I mean, there's gotta be a way, maybe I'm wrong, but I think there's gotta be a way.
I don't know of any way. There's no way to put a camera down unless you go down a hydrant, but it's an awful small water line. It's only 4 inch. I don't think they camera water lines, but I could be wrong. I've never seen it done.
Well, even if it's not cameraing, there's gotta be some way you can do a preliminary test.
You'd have to
get
dig it
an
up, I
idea.
guess, in certain spots to see what the condition of the line is. We haven't had any really issues with it with leaks. It is an old line, but we've haven't any issues with leaks on it up in that area that I know of since I've been here.
Okay, well, why don't we talk about it tomorrow, okay? And
Okay.
we'll come up with a plan that we can propose to the board, and hopefully we can get a budget quickly put together that they can look at for the department as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
But yes, I think Brian did say that they were already planning on scoping wastewater.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was in
So this-
his CSO plan.
This is almost ready to be finalized,
The only
Approved.
update that I really will need to make is
phones.
with the phone system, and otherwise, both water and wastewater, other than the phone update. And the depreciation schedule, I talked to KBS, I haven't got that final draft yet. Those are the only changes, otherwise those two are good to go, in my opinion.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so that would bring us then to electric, is the fourth fund that we have. And one issue within electric that is still kind of hanging out there, something I think we need some resolution on is the digger truck. We talked about purchasing a digger truck and discussed a couple of different options for that, but I don't think we came to any conclusions about what direction the board wanted to go. The two options, as I recall, were, one was getting a brand new digger truck, like same with the plow truck and Public Works. We're being told right now that there is a approximate 2-year wait period once you put the order in. They build this vehicle, you know, as they get the order to spec. Or the second option is to wait and see what emerges on the used digger truck market and see if there's something compatible that would work for us that's, you know, a good used truck, maybe, you know, 10 years or less old. The advantage of that being both cost and, you know, maybe getting the vehicle quicker than waiting for the 2 years. There's, you know, there's pluses and minuses to both of those. I will say that Dave Westcom, at the board's direction, the last time we had a discussion about the electric department draft, has been monitoring used digger trucks as they've come available over the last 2 to 3 weeks, and has communicated that there's not really much out there, and when they do come up, they're going very quickly, like within like a day or 2 days, they're gone. Somebody's already made an offer and they're sold. There's also a problem that he's noticed sometimes with location of the vehicles, meaning they're not necessarily close to us. So to get an honest look at them, I mean, you know, physically see them, not just photographs. You may have to travel a long distance. He was looking at a truck a couple of days ago that he thought was in New Hampshire. The dealership had indicated that the vehicle was in New Hampshire. But then when he made some additional inquiries about, being able to come down and actually look at it, they disclosed to him that, well, it's being sold through this dealership in New Hampshire, but it's actually located down in Georgia. So that kind of, unless you want to fly down to Georgia to go look at a truck, that sort of takes that option off the table. There'll still be a lot of money, relatively speaking, even for a good used one. So, I'm a little hesitant, and I think Dave is hesitant too, about putting that kind of money into something you haven't actually seen with your own eyes.
Oh, I don't think you should buy a used one without seeing it.
Right, and so, that's another challenge that we're having and looking out at what's in the used digger truck market right now is, the actual location of some of these vehicles are just, they're too far away for us to really go and physically see them. So I think those are the issues regarding the purchase of another digger truck. We kind of left it at that the last time we discussed it. So I wanted to bring this back up with the board again to see what your feelings are, whether you've, had any more time to think about this. Are you leaning one direction or another? How would you like us to reflect this in the budget for electric department?
Do we know how much time he has had to devote to looking for used trucks? I mean, I realize that's not his only thing that he has to do during the day, but sometimes when you're looking for whatever you might be looking for. Not long ago, I was looking for a car, and I realized that I kind of had to be a dog on a bone in order to have any kind of an idea if I was going to find what I was looking for or not. But I don't know how much,
I can speak to the fact that in conversations that I've had with him, both him and Alan Plouffe are checking daily.
Okay.
Whether or not they're just checking once in the morning, and that's that. I can't speak to that part, but I do know that they are kind of checking their resources and wherever they are looking.
Because if they're gone on a daily basis, you really have to be checking on a daily basis, or you're going to miss out.
Yeah, I know he did say between him and Alan, they both have kind of resources that they're both connecting with, but that they've been checking on it pretty well daily.
With the conversations that I've had with them, they're not satisfied with the digger truck they have. It is old.
Mm-hmm.
So I think especially if it is a 2-year lead time, we should probably get one coming for them.
I know one other concern that he had in speaking with him was that some of the used ones that have kind of all the specs that they would need are almost the same price as a brand new one.
That doesn't make much sense.
As what he's been running into is a conversation he and I had just at the end of last week.
Well, of course, if they're that scarce, the dealers know they can charge a lot more for them and somebody's gonna grab it.
Right.
But if you're not gonna save very much and you're still gonna have something that you might have somebody else's problems with, then maybe it's best to start with a new one that comes with a hefty warranty. It is, I presume, not knowing a lot about digger trucks, but I presume it puts in telephone or light poles. It's a rather necessary piece of equipment, I gather.
Yes.
The new one would last us like how many years?
Oh, well, you can get they don't get a lot of miles put on them, so they'll last a long time. I mean, you can get 15 years out of a digger truck. I mean, the one we're using right now is what, a 92?
94.
94.
Well, then it's obviously served us fairly well. Until now.
Well, we bought that used, though. That's one that we bought after the accident in the summer of 2020 that occurred.
Yep.
And then we were with no digger truck. And so in order to resolve, in a quick fashion, that problem.
Yeah, that time we were
of
lucky.
having no digger truck at all, we were able to pick this one up from Franklin Telephone Company, I believe. Because they just, by coincidence, were looking to sell this one, they were looking to get rid of it. And so we picked it up for a pretty cheap price. We paid, I think, around 10 grand for it, and then we put maybe like 2,000 or 3,000 into it to get some other specifications onto it that we needed for our work. You know, so for about 13 grand, we had a digger truck that we could use, at least it was usable. And, you know, so we've had it for about a year and a half approximately, but, you know, it has had problems. We ran into issues with it this year that, or this past year, I should say, 2021, that we ended up spending, you know, more money than we thought we were gonna have to keep it on the road, but, you know, we do have it passing inspection now. It is usable and we are continuing to use it, but, you know, it's,
So I got a question. Which truck is the 2007 International Digger?
That's it. It's just wrong. Oh, no, 794.
We just
Yeah, I
have to use
think-
a description in the accounting software.
yeah, I think that must
The
be it.
2007 is the one that got rolled.
That's the
That
one
was
that
the one
got
that was in
rolled,
the
yeah.
accident, yep.
We have,
Can you make a
insurance
note to
money left
correct
over
that?
from
I'm
that.
sorry, what?
Can you make a note to correct that?
Yes, yes, I can.
Get the right,
Yep,
right year on that?
yep.
Don't we have insurance funds still available?
The insurance money, from everything that I can tell, was just put into the regular checking account, the every day-to-day checking account. It was not put into a savings account and set aside for this. So,
But it's available.
to answer that question, essentially,
Kinda.
it's available.
Yeah,
It's gonna also depend on what our cash flow balance is at that time.
yeah, I think, if I'm remembering right, I think we used the money to buy the 94. You know, we took 10 grand of that.
We actually used,
11.
so I don't mean to overspeak, we actually used savings account money to purchase.
Oh, it wasn't that?
No.
Okay,
The Brown, I
Alright.
believe the Browns, or no, the equipment replacement savings was used, the $9,000 to purchase the new vehicle. The insurance money from all the research that I have done was put directly into the operating account, so
And that was like 76,000 or something?
75, 76, yep, somewhere in that ballpark. So that would be a decision that would need to be made, looking at the electric department cash flow, because that was kind of put in the everyday use fund.
Right, and how is that right now?
Normal for where we are, it's about, I think, 230,000, give or take, maybe 234. It's again, like I've said, it gets up and looks happy, and then we have our bigger bills all come out at the same time, and then we're down around 100, 140, and then it goes back up. So unfortunately, if we do make the decision to use $75,000 out of that, it's gonna significantly impact the day-to-day cash flow.
right. And as you see in the electric department, we're running a large deficit there. You know, it's very likely that we're probably gonna have to file for a rate increase in 2022. If the budget is, as it's presented now, stands, then, you know, I would most definitely contact Steve Farman and have him start reviewing our numbers to start presenting a rate case to the state.
Can that truck be included in the rate case?
I'm not sure because it would be 2 years out. I don't know if the DPS would allow it to be considered for a rate increase this year because the truck wouldn't actually hit the electric department budget for another 2 years, so they may not allow it to be considered. We would just have to see what they thought. We certainly should tell them.
Right,
About
for sure.
it.
Hopefully they'll take that into at least consideration.
Right, but they, you know, they don't always do that. They're very meticulous in the way that they make their decisions on rate cases in order to keep rates as low as they can for customers. Unless, of course, it's a state policy that they're enforcing in some way. But if it's something that the local electric utility needs or wants, they're very meticulous in the way that they will allow those kinds of expenses to be calculated into a future rate increase, so. But I definitely think the information should be presented to them. I just can't say for sure whether they would allow it to be considered or not.
I don't think we're getting out of this one. Yeah, I don't know, I think we,
Need to do it.
as much as I'd like to tell them that they're fine, I'm not the one that has to run it.
Right.
And it's running into the issue, like, this year we had to spend all this extra money for it to pass inspection. It's an annual inspection, I believe.
Yes, it is.
And that dielectric test, that
Correct.
boom, if that fails, then it's
Then
out
we're
of service.
They rent
And we don't
it.
have a bigger truck at that point.
Correct.
So, I don't know, I think we just gotta bite the bullet.
Well, we need it. It's not like it's an unnecessary expense.
Right.
Okay, so digger truck planned for a 2-year order. And, you know, obviously if we can get it sooner, then, you know, then we'll do that, but, that's what we're being told right now. Okay, so, but that won't actually impact this year's budget, won't be for 2 more years that it affects.
Do we
But
need,
that's good to know, so we will plan on making that request after annual meeting.
That'll have to go to a public vote too, though.
Well, that was actually my next comment is, Abby, yeah, I don't think it actually does.
do they need to just do a formal vote?
Yeah, because there is, we haven't tried it yet, but I believe it was 3 years ago, the legislature changed the laws for electric utilities on financing and what needed to go out for public votes for electric utilities. It used to be extremely complicated, and you had to do what was called a Section 108 filing if you wanted to take a loan out for anything in electric power. If you weren't gonna pay for it within the year that you were purchasing it, you had to file a Section 108 with the DPS, and they would tell you, it was a very long and complicated and drawn-out process to go through this Section 108 filing. And at the end of that, they would tell you, even after you went to a public vote, whether they would allow you to make that purchase or not. So the state had the final say, even if you went out to a public vote to your own voters, they could still override it legally and say, nope, we don't like this and we're not gonna allow you to do it. 3 years ago, the legislature changed the laws. Electric utilities no longer need to go through a Section 108 filing. They have given the boards regulating publicly owned electric utilities, so that's municipals and co-ops, the ability for their boards to make the decision on that, provided that you are within a certain threshold of your overall debt ratio to revenue, and I believe we're well within that.
We were under it last I checked.
Yeah, well, my last 2 conversations with Matt Miner before he left about that structure and where we were within that debt ratio, we were well within the parameters of it. So you would have the ability to just approve the purchase of that truck without having to go to a public vote on it. Now, that's only for electric department, not other departments. So, but we should do our due diligence.
Yep, and check that again.
Research that
Yep.
again. We can have a conversation with our electric department attorney at Primer Piper if we need to, but I'm pretty sure that you guys have the authority to approve the purchase of that digger truck yourselves. But we'll research a little bit more now that you've sounds like you've made a decision to move forward with it.
You-
Do they need to do a formal motion and a vote for us to move forward with it because of the size of the purchase?
Yeah,
Or-
probably should do that.
Do we even have a quote, build specs, anything like that?
I don't believe
We-
so. I'd have to check with Dave. He may have a
He has
quote.
an estimate,
I
that's
think-
where we got the
I'd say, I think it was
230,000.
230 was, I was just about to say, it was the last number that I
Yeah,
spoke to him
230
with
is the estimate that Dave got, but how detailed the specs are on it, I'm not sure.
Okay, would we need a more detailed, like, actual purchase order to approve?
And then to.
I don't think so, no.
We just need to
It's-
approve
you're
the
approving
purchase
a-
of a digger truck?
Right, you're approving a budget number.
Okay, of 230.
We can come back to you if you would like and ask you to do a formal vote on it. We can have a conversation with Dave and see what he was able to pull together to
Yeah.
get that 230 estimate and share it with you if that makes you guys feel better.
Maybe we can have that by next week,
Yeah, it should be.
then we can do it then? Would that work?
Yeah, sure. Do we need 3 for the procurement policy? or no?
Well-
I assume since it's such a specialized piece of equipment, that just one would work.
Yeah, you're just approving a dollar amount.
Yep.
You're not actually approving the actual vehicle itself. But we can do that if you want. You know, because this isn't actually, I mean, we could do it, you can do it 6 months from now if that makes you feel better too, because it's not actually impacting the 2022 budget, if this is the direction we're gonna go in.
But they may need, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but they may need, whoever we purchase from may need the minutes of it being approved in order to go ahead with the order, because he'd have to order it.
Right,
kind
it
of
would delay
now.
the delivery time.
Well, we can make.
But if
Yep,
you
okay.
want to get down to the specifics of exactly the truck that you want to order and exactly the dollar amount, then we can go through a more refined procurement process if you would like, and have you approve, you know, the actual purchase of the truck as opposed to
Right, that's-
a budget amount.
That's what I was wondering.
If that would make you, that will take more time, obviously.
No,
to
if
go
all you need
through
is
that.
just a kind of informal or formal motion of just.
But the longer we wait, the more the price is gonna
Right,
go up.
Yeah.
that's the drawback to that,
Yeah.
if you would like to do that. It's totally within, I mean, if that makes you feel more comfortable, then I think you should do that. It's just, it's gonna delay the order a bit.
Do we want to make a motion to authorize the electric department to make a purchase of a new digger truck?
If we do that, do we have to put in the motion whether or not we're using that money out of the checking account that came from the insurance money?
I think that would put us kind of a little dangerously low.
I know personally, I would.
Before
rather
that
not
truck
be
got
comfortable
wrecked,
with it.
before that truck got wrecked, that money wasn't in there. So where was the account then?
Well,
Right.
this is the insurance money that we received from the truck. It was the insurance payout.
Right,
So we
But what
didn't
I'm
have
sa-
this money prior to the accident.
right. That's what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, like the insurance.
That money wasn't
The
there
digger truck
before.
reimbursement money is helping the electric department
It's cash
maintain
flow.
a balance in the savings account.
But it wasn't there before. Doesn't-
In which case,
Some
there
of it-
probably would be a bigger deficit.
I think what's happening is.
Well, right, that's the issue, is if you take
Deficits
that
on
out,
deficits.
then our cash reserves in the department are, I mean, they're marginal right now. We're getting by, but you can see the deficit we're looking at for 2022. So, you know, if you cut those reserve funds back more, 75,000, you know, it's gonna be that much more difficult to keep the department operating.
And by the sounds, we're gonna have to file for a rate increase anyway. But I think it would be more responsible to finance
The whole thing.
for the full amount. yeah.
I would kind of support that, back that up. Would be almost like playing Russian roulette with a checkbook if we were to pull that $75,000 out, in my opinion, just
Not a very
looking at
good
how the
idea.
balances are every month and with if we have any other big expenditures, vehicle needs to be repaired or anything, I unfortunately agree that I feel we should finance it fully, and that insurance money is kind of a wash, so to speak, that just helped with the cash crunch in the electric fund checking account.
Well, why don't we do this then? Why don't, next week, it sounds like there's a few things that, you know, we should research so that we've got everything down, including double checking and making sure we're within that
Yep.
debt ratio. And then next week we'll report back to you on what we find. We'll get, you know, a bit more detail from Dave on what was involved in the specs on the $230,000 figure. Make sure he's comfortable with that number, if that's a budget number that you're gonna actually, you know, vote on to approve for purchase. And then we can also talk about, you know, how long do you want to finance that for? Do you want it to be 5 years, 10 years, whatever your fancy is on that, and bring it back to you next week and give you a little more detail on it.
Okay,
Okay?
and we'll make our decision then.
I had a question. I don't know if now's the time or how this works. Sandy and I went to a meeting about ARPA funds last week, Sandy, was it?
Yes, Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, sometime last week. And there's a newish rule with ARPA funds about being able to claim
Lost revenue.
some of the funds as lost revenue,
Yes. And
which would allow shifts of free up money to be used in a certain way, a little more like with fewer restrictions.
it was definitely being touted
I
as
don't
the
know
way
if
to
that
go.
helps us. Sorry, Cindy, I didn't hear you.
You have to fall under a certain percentage with that. That's been one of the rules, one of the options with the ARPA funds from the beginning. There is a rather
It just changed.
large, to offset a debt, you have to go through, there's a specific formula that they've put out, a spreadsheet that you have to fill in. It's pretty extensive. I've looked into it, it's doable. But yeah, that's always been an option where you've been able to use that to kind of make up lost revenue if you can come under a certain percentage.
They said they just changed it.
Yeah.
Like days ago.
Just
Okay.
last week.
Like last Wednesday, that they made it really easy.
Yeah.
I hope so,
But-
'cause that first spreadsheet was kind of scary.
And we can look into that,
Yep.
Heather, but I think even to get into the threshold though, you actually have to have lost revenue in order to claim that lost revenue. And we haven't really lost much revenue, even in our electric department. You know, we did so well in the other two programs that the state came out with through the course of the spring, summer, and fall of this year. We did so well in the collections on those two programs, we really were almost made whole. There is still a little bit of debt that we're carrying in that, but it's not a lot. It's not a lot at all. So if Abby and Lori, I mean, if you have a different opinion about that, please speak up. But when you're looking at the overall electric department picture and comparing that to the relatively small amounts of revenue that we were unable to collect as a result of non-payment due to COVID-19, I don't think it's going to have any real bearing on, you know, where our electric department stands financially. But it's a great point, and I appreciate you bringing that up as, you know, an option, and we can certainly
I'll
look into it a little
further.
bit more to see, you know, where the rules on that have changed. But I'm pretty sure, unless they've, you know, totally changed the program, you still have to show that you actually lost the revenue that you're claiming. and we just haven't
I'll
lost.
see. I'll see if I can find, they said it was recorded. It was a 1 hour webinar. Well, it's an hour and a half, but the presentation part was in the first half hour. So just to share that with you all,
And I'll bring my notes.
for the updates, because it was pretty cool stuff.
Was that the webinar on Friday?
Yes.
Yeah, I've already requested a copy of the actual webinar to be able to review it because I was not able to attend it like I originally planned. So,
And they left us with sites to be able to go to get the rest of the information that we needed.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to it and I was like, oh my gosh, we're hearing this during budget season. This helps us, but it doesn't. So I hesitated to bring it up, but I just wanted to throw it out there in case it did help us.
Yeah, appreciate that. I think Lori had her hand up. You have something you want to
Do
say,
either
Lori?
of you know, was it a loss in sales? Like, we didn't sell as much electricity, therefore we had a loss in revenue, which in my opinion would be different than a loss in collections. So that's my question.
I will bring my notes next week that I took, which sometimes are good and sometimes not so good, but I
Yeah.
wrote as feverishly as I could.
I can't speak to what changes they spoke about Friday, but it's just a loss in overall revenue. It's
Yes.
taking your whole budget essentially,
The whole thing.
comparing it, if it's the same process that I looked at when it initially came out, it's your overall kind of the whole picture of everything, not just a specific area. It would be looking at the entire electric department.
Okay, couple other things. So I think we're through the 4 different funds now. A couple other things I did want to bring up to the board before we left for the evening. One is we need to designate a location for, a physical annual meeting. As the law stands right now, we still have to provide that. I've been given some information today, just today, that it looks like it's possible. The legislature may again change the law on that, but whether they're gonna actually do it and when it would take effect is still unknown. So as of now, we still need to plan for a physical meeting location, but in addition to that, even if the legislature does end up allowing for an electronic only option, I doubt very much that they will remove the requirement to have a physical voting location. Even last year, when we weren't allowed to meet physically at all, we still had to provide, a physical voting booth where people could go in and cast their ballots if they chose to do it that way. And so we need to have a location for that voting facility designated, which should probably be the same location of the physical meeting location. And if that changes, then, we can roll with that punch, whatever it is. And we'll just have to see. What I was sent today was a draft of legislation that is apparently making itself through the House and the Senate that doesn't mandate anything, but it gives the option to the legislative body, which would be you guys, to decide whether you wanted to have an only electronic annual meeting or not. It doesn't preclude you from having a physical meeting, but it gives you the option to make the decision for yourself, which is different than last year, where last year we were actually mandated that we could not meet physically. Everything had to be done electronically except for the voting. So it's a little different slant, yet again, adds another wrinkle into things, trying to get the annual meeting planned for and set.
Where did we have the voting booths last year?
Last year, I think they were at the
Emergencies.
auditorium, weren't they?
I thought they
Emergency
were
services, I
emergency
think.
services because the town
were?
already had everything in place.
And the
Okay.
schools are out. I believe we
Okay.
can't use the schools.
Yes, you can.
Oh, we
Not-
can now?
Not this year,
Oh.
no, the schools have already.
That's
stated
what I
they're not an
thought.
option this
They've
year.
said no.
Right, typically
Okay.
we would.
So I took the liberty, just to have something in place for this, to contact the town and ask them to reserve on the village's behalf the emergency services building property for March 8th, which is your annual meeting date. And Billy Jo has told me she will hold that,
Good.
earmark it until she hears otherwise from us. And if you don't like that location, then tell me you want someplace different and we can make it somewhere different,
Like the
maybe.
parking lot outside, like.
There you go. I might vote for McClurg's, but I think the EMS building will do.
Right.
We give better attendance if there's.
We would, this is true.
Maple
Yeah.
Fields, Saturday.
Oh, God.
Could
Right.
the armory, I know it belongs to the town, but what we have to set up, like we do at the,
I think it's still under renovation though, don't know if it'll be
Yeah,
done.
I don't think they're
It's
finished.
not ready yet.
oh, it's not, nothing's ready, okay.
Still got asbestos abatement and stuff, and so, they're not gonna want anybody in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
No, I think the emergency
the big
services
A.
building is appropriate.
okay,
Yes.
so I have reserved that for March 8th with Billy Jo. Something else, though, that you guys also need to think about in relation to the annual meeting is that because we are going to have some things that will be voted on by Australian ballot, we also need to have an informational meeting prior to the annual meeting for those items specifically that will be voted on by Australian ballot.
How far ahead of time?
Usually do it the
You can,
Monday before.
yeah, you can do, most places do it the night before the annual meeting. But you can do it a little earlier. I think last year we did it maybe like on a Thursday before the annual meeting. So the annual meeting's on a Tuesday and we did it like the Thursday before the Tuesday meeting.
Is that a law that we gotta have that?
Yeah, that's a law if you're.
It's a law,
if
because
you're-
hardly anybody comes.
Yeah, well, you're right, Leonard, and I've actually been to some informational meetings where like one person came. But, it's the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, you
Right.
know?
Stick his head
I
in.
mean, all you can do is set it up and tell people that, this is happening and put the notifications out. And that's also part of living in a democracy. It's up to them if they want to come to the meeting or not. It's not required, but the meeting's there if they want to come and ask questions and learn about the issues that are being voted on. So, so along with annual meeting then, you should also decide about a date for when you want to do the informational meeting and also a location to hold the informational meeting. So you could do it also at emergency services if you're comfortable with that. I don't know what
It's
your.
our building too.
Yeah, we'd have to ask the town, obviously, but, along with that, you should think about a date and a time. So if you were looking at doing it the night before, that would be Monday the 7th.
Or
March
Thursday the
7th.
3rd.
Excuse me, Sandy?
Or Thursday the 3rd. Does one have a
Right.
better track record than the other, the night before or a few days before?
We typically would do it the night before on the Monday.
So that's the 7th.
Okay, you want to set it for Monday the 7th, March 7th then, 6:30? Okay.
Sounds good.
So that's another piece of the puzzle then. So informational meeting, March 7th at Emergency Services. Okay. Then I think the last thing I wanted to ask you guys about is a dedication. I don't know if you guys have thought about, is there somebody in the community you would like to dedicate this year's annual report to or not?
I think Heather had a good idea on that.
Yeah, I was thinking that we could dedicate the report to John for all of his years of service.
I would second that.
I
Works for
think
me.
that's a very good idea.
Well, thank you very much. That's a very nice
Get your
honor.
picture face ready.
Yeah. It'll be easy to do then. I'll just write, unless someone else wants to write it, I'll just write it and it'll be like 2 sentences. And
We
then-
have to approve it.
And we'll put a picture on it and that'll be done.
I came, I saw, I left.
Well, that's.
Sounds like a good idea.
If you guys
Well
want to
done.
do that, that's a very nice honor. I appreciate that. But it will be probably 2 sentences if I'm writing it. It won't be anything fancy.
I'll have to get some help then.
Okay, is that what you guys want to do?
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's all I had, I think, tonight. You got something,
I had one
something else
item.
happening? Okay.
I think I told John I was just gonna mention this to you guys. We received a couple of memos on Friday from the Public Utility Commission in regards to Franklin Foods digester project. They are holding, a little bit of a short notice, but holding a site visit on Monday, as well as a public informational meeting, and then the hearing is also happening on Monday. I have spoken to Brian as well as kind of Dave, because it kind of affects their loads and everything that's going to happen. They are planning on attending the site visit as well as the meetings, and I've volunteered to go with them as well. Just, I don't know like anything about this project, so just try to get up to speed as to what's going on and what's going to be happening with this. But I did want to put it out there because I know a couple of you have asked about it in the last couple months, if anybody would like to attend with us. The site visit is happening at 3:30, and then the informational meeting is at 6, and the public hearing is at 7. I plan on setting up in here for that meeting so that we can properly kind of space out, but that everybody can attend because it's going to be electronically.
Okay, so where is are they having a physical meeting?
I didn't.
Raise the plant at 3:30.
That's the site visit.
Like,
This
that's what he
meeting,
asked.
yeah,
Well, there's
the
a
site visit,
informational meeting. in
it
public.
says that they're utilizing the GoToMeeting video conference. It honestly does, I think it's only online for the hearing. The site visit is at 3:30. You
Right.
physically can go to that. But I don't have a physical location. It's just via the GoToMeeting service.
So if we want to attend, we can just come down here
And what time was the meeting?
The site visit is
No, the
at
meeting.
3:30, and
Six.
then there's
Is
an
the
informational
informational.
meeting at 6. I can forward you these documents and an email with all, kind of highlighting all of that, but I did just want to bring it to your attention because I remember Eli asking about it, and
Yeah, so the only thing though regarding that is if a majority of you go to this meeting,
right,
then it's
a quorum.
technically also a Board of Trustee meeting. So, which means it needs to be warned as a Board of Trustee
You like
meeting.
it.
So just think about that, because if 3 or more of you do decide to go to this, we need to get this warned as a Board of Trustee meeting, just letting you know. Because if you're attending that, you will probably and you ask a question or anything, you will be discussing village business as well. Now, I also want to just say, this is regarding the digester part of that project. And whatever the state does in here doesn't override your jurisdiction over what happens with any of our specific utilities here. So, for example, one of the issues that we have brought up to Franklin Foods and the potential developer of the digester is the waste levels that they could potentially be sending down to our treatment facility. And we have put this in writing to them, expressed our concerns to them about that. And you, as the Board of Trustees, are the only ones that have the legal right and ability to approve them hooking that digester up to our wastewater facility. You have to approve the allocations for them to use our wastewater facility. And that won't change as a result of anything that happens with this meeting. You will still hold that right. And they need to prove to you that the waste that they'd be sending down to our treatment plant is a safe level and a level that we have the capacity to handle in a responsible manner. So I just want to let you know that you still have rights as Board of Trustees members, as a board. You still have the final say over what they're sending down to this treatment plant or not.
This notice was sent to all landowners that adjoin kind of the property.
I got one.
Yeah, it was part of why we got this, but like I said, I just wanted to, keeping in mind if we have 3 of you, but that Brian, Dave Westcomb, and myself are going to attend all 3 things on Monday, and I can provide you a recap, or if one of you would like to attend with us.
Yeah, and I'm sure Brian will most certainly bring up the wastewater treatment issues to them again. And
Yes.
make sure everybody is aware of that. That's still on the table for us.
John, can I ask a question? I know that net metering is a bit different than this project, but it does fall under the 5.5, the generation for the project, aside from the wastewater. Most of those, you have a deadline that you have, that we would have to file an objection. Do we know if there is a deadline, and have we filed?
We just got this today, so no, we haven't filed anything. From the electric department's perspective, which is what you're talking about now,
January 28th,
Of this year?
a motion, if you wish to participate actively as a proceeding party, you must file a motion to intervene as a party in this case. The deadline to file a motion to intervene is January 28th.
Does this wastewater situation fall under
well,
that?
this is what I'm saying. I mean, they can't just override, or no, for the wastewater issue, no. The state can't just override the Board of Trustees regulation of our wastewater treatment facility. So that's what I was saying. You guys, no matter what they do as a result of this, you still will retain those rights. You are the only people that can either approve or deny additional allocations into our wastewater treatment facility. The state can't touch that. Regarding the net metering stuff, which is more to do with the electric side of this, I don't know that we really have an issue with that from the electric perspective. I don't know, in my conversations with Dave, he doesn't seem to have an objection, I'm sorry, to anything that's been shown to us so far. So I think from that perspective, we're okay, but we're not okay yet. Hopefully we'll get to okay, but we're not okay yet with what we've been shown on the wastewater side of things. But as I said, you guys hold the final card on that. You can tell them no if, you know, when they come in and ask for more allocations, if you're not satisfied with what you're seeing and what your staff is recommending, believe me, Brian Ovitt will be all over that, making sure that, you know, their phosphorus and other waste products coming down the plant are going to be within reasonable capacity levels for us to handle. And if they're not, believe me, Brian is going to make it well known, we've got a problem here.
Okay.
I'll forward
But-
you all of this information, and then I'll send it out to you guys tomorrow, and then we can go from there if one of you wants to attend with us. Otherwise, I can provide you kind of a recap of what happens.
Yeah,
After
this
the
was,
fact.
sorry for the short notice, but we just got this today. We just saw this today, so.
Got one a couple days ago.
You got yours
Oh,
a couple days ago?
privileged.
We just, it came in the mail
Must've been
on
yesterday.
Friday, but.
No?
No,
Yeah,
you wouldn't have
Friday.
gotten it
Friday,
yesterday.
That's
it
when
came
it
in the
was,
mail on
Friday.
Friday, but we just, with the timing of it, just noted.
Looked at it today, and I was out Friday, so.
So go
Okay,
ahead.
yep, we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, so if any guys are interested, you're welcome to attend, but if, it might be better.
I would have to, wouldn't I have to recuse myself anyway, because I'm an adjoining property owner?
Okay,
Conflict of interest stuff?
okay. Okay, if that's
I don't know.
what you need to do, oh, you're asking? me?
Right, I don't know if I'd
Oh,
have
I'm
to
sorry,
or
I
not.
thought you were saying you
No,
do.
no, I don't know if I would
You're
have to or
asking.
not, yeah.
Well, can you give a little more detail as to where you're an adjoining property owner, but what does that mean? Are you
Well,
selling
say
Franklin Foods any of the property?
No, but say I was extremely against it because it's going to be
You
next
felt
to
it was
my
gonna
property.
negatively
I would-
impact your property, yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
which I don't think it would, but I just don't know if that's in good taste to.
it might be better, Eli, it might be right, it might be better just to take a back seat.
Or somebody
on
can
it.
say, well, he wanted that there because it's gonna increase, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if there was,
There's questions that could be made.
yeah,
If there was a swing vote, and they caught word, well, put two and two together, that you're a
Right.
board member and a property owner, then we could probably be a hearing, but.
yeah, it might be better, you might be right if you are an adjoining property owner and could potentially be impacted by it, just to step back from it.
I just didn't know if that would have a bearing on how many people showed up, if it mattered.
Well, as Abby said, we're gonna have 3 staff members there from different departments.
Right, but you're saying
To
if 3
comment.
trustees decided they wanted to show up.
Right, then that puts a different spin, so.
But if I recused myself, I wouldn't technically be a trustee at that point for that purpose.
I think would be recusing yourself from the final vote on it, but
I don't know.
I would-
Somebody else could still try creating a sticky wicket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just asking, I don't know about any of this.
Yeah.
We don't want you to get sticky.
are there 3 board members that are planning to go to this? If it's 2
I'm not.
or 1
Yeah,
or
maybe
none,
just two.
then, we don't have to worry about getting it posted, but we do need to know if there's gonna be 3 or more of you, because we do have to get it posted then.
I think I'm
Do
gonna
you
show
think
up.
there's
I
gonna,
won't there.
You're gonna go with it?
I'm gonna.
you're not going, Heather, is that what you said?
Right, I won't be there.
Okay,
You don't plan on going?
I don't like their orange water, so I don't want to go there.
What about you,
Okay.
Leonard? Do you plan on going?
I'd like to go, but I don't wanna cause a problem.
I'm not going to the
You
site
can Go
visit.
then.
so.
I'm not going to the site
so
visit,
it's
I'm
not-
just gonna come
and
down
would-
here.
Would you
Either
go,
way.
Sam, or no?
No, if Leonard wants to go, then.
Okay, well, that would only be 1 board member then,
Yeah.
so that we wouldn't have to worry about getting it posted then.
Yeah,
If everyone's
just you
okay
two.
with that,
Yep.
Yep, we'll be filled in after anyway, so.
Right.
okay. Yeah, and I
One
guess
last meeting.
after, you guys go to this, you'll have to keep the issue about whether the village should intervene in this or be marked as a participant or not. I mean, we have some status in it anyway.
Right.
Because we provide utility services to the project.
This meeting's on Monday. We have a meeting next Tuesday, a normal meeting.
Meeting on Tuesday.
Would it be smart to put an agenda item on just to
At the very
discuss
least, I
this?
can update you on what came out of it, if anything.
Right, you guys can give us a
Okay.
recap and then we can see
Yeah.
if there's any action
Sure.
going forward, what we should do.
I think those are all recorded too.
It's gonna be online, so.
Any meeting I've attended at the Public Utility Commission, typically they're recorded.
Okay.
And I think with the go-to-meeting service.
That's Friday the 28th?
No, it's Monday, the 24th, next Monday.
Next
Oh,
Monday.
Monday the 24th.
The Monday before our meeting.
Right, the
Yeah.
28th is the deadline to file.
Intervene, file
Right.
to intervene.
Right, if you want to do that, but,
Right.
I don't know that we really need to do that, we have status in this anyway, because we provide utilities to to the project, and, you know, the state they can't just override that, especially with wastewater. I mean, you have 100% control over our wastewater system. So, you know, you have the right to establish rates, you have the right to award allocations or deny allocations. The state cannot take that away from you.
But yeah, we'll talk about it next week.
Okay.
Since we're talking about next week's meeting, I might not be here next week, so just a heads up to make sure we have a quorum.
I'll be here.
Okay,
Yeah, we should.
but thanks for letting us know, Heather.
Okay. Is that it for, well, we did the annual meeting and other stuff. Any other business? Let's move on to other business. I think that was all the other business that we had from there. Okay, so there's, one thing in executive session that we're gonna touch in. So I'll hear a motion to move into executive.
Move we go to executive session?
Second.
Andy was first, that was the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night, guys.
Night.
Have a good night.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.